Hi everybody, good afternoon. My name is Louise Galt. I work at Think People and I'm a senior OD and talent consultant. I am joined today by an ex-colleague and our resident expert in psychology, Dave Wood, who I will hand over to now to give a bit of an introduction to himself. Dave, over to you.
Hiya, thanks Louise, and thanks for the opportunity to join in the webinar today on a topic that I'm certainly interested in, have been for a long time. So I suppose a bit about me. My experience really, I suppose, spans occupational psychology and then both most recently sport and exercise psychology. And I suppose it's really well in those environments trying to thrive and excel and perform well under pressure. So done a lot of research in those areas, and currently also we teach and lecture on those topics as well, mostly focusing on, as I said, like sport and exercise. I'm employed up at the School of Sport in Ulster University, focusing on sports psychology and mindset, but we still, in my previous background as occupational psychologist, think about how they apply to the workplace. And I suppose the current situation has provided I suppose a unique time to think about how those lessons and different models and different theories can apply to helping us all, I suppose, thrive as much as we can alongside survive at the minute.
Thanks, Dave. So yeah, guys, welcome to the session. It is Thriving While Working From Home. Just a few logistics pieces before we get into the flow. We do have you all on mute at the moment. Please stay on mute unless we instruct you to do so otherwise. Please use the chat function throughout this session. As it's only 30 minutes, we will be taking the questions as they come through. So please, if you have a question at any time, please pop it in the chat function and we will do our best to address as many of those as we can in the 30 minutes. If you lose connection, just log out and log back in again. If for any reason we might lose connection, if you give us about 30 or 40 seconds for us to log out and get back in, then if you just join, then we will pick up where we left off. And lastly, enjoy the session, be an active participant via the chat function, and we hope you enjoy the information that Dave and I have to share with you on thriving while working from home. So obviously at the moment we have all experienced very quickly and very rapidly an awful lot of change, and we find ourselves in what some of us are now calling our VUCA environment. So a volatile, uncertain, complex and highly ambiguous time where so much is unknown and out of our control, and we're all having to work from home, and many of us that isn't the norm. Even for myself, who was used to working from home, I would now say regularly but not frequently, having to do it every day and work out our new ways of working has definitely been challenging. Good challenging some days, and other days the challenge has not always been on the positive. But the purpose of this session today is really for Dave and I to talk about our experiences and our areas of expertise around how we have been I would say attempting to thrive while working from home. I don't think I myself would say I win at that every day, but trying to do the best I can with the time that we have at the moment in this environment to make the most of it. And I think the key learning for myself is the mindset shift. I feel like this has been something that has had to come on us all extremely quickly, and we've had to adapt to it at a really rapid pace. So from my personal perspective, I obviously work for Think People, extremely busy and growing organisation. I used to be up and down the road to Dublin multiple times a week and working lots of hours with lots of brilliant clients and very busy. And going from that to being furloughed was one mindset shift for me, going from a very busy career to sitting at home and then having to do that shift back. So spending a period of time on furlough, getting used to the not working, and then having to very quickly not only adjust to getting back to work, but getting back to work remotely and having to hit the ground at 100 miles an hour. So I've gone through quite a few mindset shifts over the last couple of months, and that hasn't even yet been me mentioning having to deal with COVID-19 as well. So I think from my perspective, it has been hard to do from mindset, and that's me even being conscious of it. So I think if it's not something you're conscious of having to do, it can be really challenging to have to kind of reset. You know, we've entitled this session Thriving from Working at Home. I know for myself, I've had to reset what surviving and thriving then means for me, compared to maybe what it meant 3 months ago, and that has taken time and probably some tough conversations with myself as well, to not be so hard on myself and not give myself a hard time when things maybe didn't work out like I thought they would or how they should, or that I've woken up on a day and just not felt like I have been firing on all cylinders and in the most positive mindset possible. So it is challenging for us all. And I think from my experience, hopefully if we've people on the call who have any questions around how I've dealt with the mindset shift from the fast-paced environment to the furlough and back again, please drop them into the chat function. Like, I know, you know, for us all, we hear about lots of people talking about how they've started to, you know, learn to cope in this environment. And I just think we were very hard on ourselves from what we would normally have deemed success. You know, how many hours a week did we work? You know, how many clients did we see? Now we're looking at, you know, am I neglecting children if I'm trying to homeschool and work at the same time? You know, how can I fit in my 8 hours a day? There's a lot of other things going on. How can I move a business forward when I maybe haven't even set foot in my own office for 8 weeks plus, and however long that might go on for? And there are a lot of challenges, but the purpose of this session is, I suppose, for us to share how we feel we are helping ourselves move forward and support that then with Dave's area of expertise around, you know, positive psychology and how we focus our energies on positive outcomes. Dave, just from your perspective, have you had any, I suppose, light bulb moments lately around your mindset, or have you been shocked you know, by how you've adjusted?
So I'm just laughing. So I have had any light bulbs moments lately, because I have them all the time. But yes, in terms of the most recent ones, no, so just reflecting on what you were saying there. I think a way to calibrate this is, I suppose, what does thriving mean is something to put up front there. You know, if you're talking about changing your perception of it, I think it's useful to think of thriving on a continuum. If you think, you know, kind of thriving is at one end, and what we talk about sometimes in science is languishing at the far end, and maybe poor mental health. Then in the middle you kind of have surviving. And I suppose, yes, we kind of take thriving as, you know, having very positive thoughts, feelings, actions, behaviours, being very enthused and very energized by our challenges and work, kind of running to challenges, being excited about them, taking on more. And I suppose, you know, probably quite an ambitious person, like a lot of us are. A lot of time you work in consulting. I know a lot of my colleagues would be ambitious and sort of keen to take on more. And I think when this first happened, that kind of mindset was still there. You kind of wanted more challenges to do well, because that enthused you. You knew it was hard work, you knew it was challenging, but you kind of backed yourself to take on those other challenges and succeed in them alongside your core functions of your job. And
Yeah.
to me, that was often thriving in work. And when we sort of moved from the university, kind of very, very quickly, you have to work from home and do all your work from there, get your lectures up and support students and whatever else. And we all have our own job functions, you know, our daily core activities. And so initially I was right, well, I need to keep doing what to me is thriving at work. And because, as you mentioned, there, some people might have kids, some people might have elderly people looking after. Everyone will have their own concerns. For me, it was at home, you know, having 2 small kids, we're homeschooling, and my wife is still going to work as a key worker. So I was initially getting up at 5:30, going, if I got up at 5:30, I can do my emails, do my admin. Wife goes to work at 7:30. That's time with the kids, do the homeschooling, get lunches, get dinners. Wife come home, and then I go back to work in the evening, work maybe at 8 o'clock, do a bit of bedtime with the kids, then back on work, and then time for bed at 10, 10:30. That very quickly didn't work. I mean, it wasn't thriving, it was just about surviving, and I kind of felt that I wasn't doing anything particularly well. I think for me that was a key learning. Well, you know what? There was kind of almost a shutting down to what's the core activity, what I need to achieve, what's the basic functions of my job, and then as and when I get used to that and doing that well in this new environment, I'm feeling like I'm doing what I'm supposed to do well when I'm doing it. So in that previous scenario, when I was with the kids, I was thinking about the work that I hadn't done to the same standard I would have liked, or the work that I hadn't got round to. And then when I was in work, I was maybe feeling annoyed that I wasn't spending time with the kids, or that maybe I got ratty with them because I was a bit stressed about work. So, and that learning took a while, you
Sorry,
know.
how did you start to control that then? How did you start to move past, I suppose, that guilt or that feeling of not really completing anything to any great standard, if that's a fair way to put it?
Yeah, no. So I suppose first there's a bit of stopping and reflecting, and I think within, I suppose the areas that I've worked in before that, that's something you talk to your clients about. Something we talk around in theories, taking time to reflect and think about some of those, and that's something that's hard to do yourself when you feel like you need to be firing on all cylinders. So part of it was just stopping and stopping some of the negative thoughts. We would talk about thought stopping and reflecting on, as I went back to this, was what was my core function, and at that period the core function was really to support students. There's a lot of final lectures to be done, final coursework to support them on, and whilst that would always take a bit of extra work alongside the research, there was a massive spike in sort of helping guide students through the new environment they were working in. That was a lot more one-to-one calls, a lot more emails, and it was a case of going, right, there's some other research I'd like to be doing right now, but I can't. And then I said, well, that's okay. And talking to colleagues, I realized a lot of them were in the same boats or same boat. I think a lot of that was good leadership too from people who were senior people in the team in our school and across the university in general. There was an email every day from the most senior person, and there was also regular emails from the head of our school. Again, sort of recalibrating expectations, and again letting us know they were aware of what our core functions were, and that we were all doing a good job in meeting them. So I suppose maybe that links on a bit to kind of, I know you've moved on the slide there around controlling the controllable, and to me, and again, it kind of seems obvious sometimes when you chat about these things to other people, how you then apply it to yourself more often and more quickly than you should. But a key part of my learning was, right, okay, so what can I control and what can I not control, and what's it okay to care about and what's it okay to not care about. And that not caring wasn't meant I wasn't doing a good job or that I wasn't thriving, because you said sometimes it's maybe just a wee bit more than surviving, but it's not quite what thriving used to be. But I'm kind of now accepting that that's okay to be a little bit maybe further away from thriving than I was. But part of that was, yeah, so controlling the things that I could. And I suppose I was thinking in terms of getting ready for this, why is that important, and then how can we do it? And I think that really that idea of why it's important to control, or kind of focus on what we can control and take time to actually plan that up front, is because if we start thinking things are out of control, or we're not in control of our day as much as we'd like to be, then it's going to lead to stress. It's going to lead to anxiety. I suppose just very, very quickly on the stress process, we get stress usually because we're making two appraisals. We're thinking, what's the challenge in front of us? What's the demand? What's the threat? Have we met that threat before somewhere in our life? Have we come across that demand before? Yes or no? If we have, it's much easier to deal with. If we haven't, then we think, right, well, do I have the capacity to deal with that challenge now based on what I think my capacities are? So with COVID coming and with the whole very quickly rapid shift to working from home, that first question, have I met that challenge before? The answer was generally no to everything. There was so many things we hadn't met the challenge of before because we'd never had to face them before to the same extent. As you said, we've all worked from home a bit, but it was never to the same extent. And it certainly wasn't when you were delivering, I would say, as much. It wasn't when I was supporting students as much. There's lots of different things happening at a more rapid pace. So that first part of the appraisal process was coming at me all the time, and I'm sure coming at lots of people. And then the second part will do I have the ability to deal with those threats or those challenges or those new demands? Well, again, often that's judged by, well, I've done it before, I've done something like it before, so I can do it again. So it was taking time to reflect and sort of reassure yourself and have confidence that you have met such challenges before and you can do it again. But that kind of takes a bit of deliberate time to set aside. It doesn't just happen. You need to say, right, well, let me sit down and think about, or I've met this before, or chat to other people about that and take time to do it.
Definitely, and I know I found that when I was first furloughed as well. And actually, as you say, we talk about this stuff quite a lot to you in your line of work and us with what we do within our OD and our talent functions. And even for myself, it took me a few days to kind of go, I know what I need to be doing, but it took me a while to even realize that I knew what I should be doing and not give myself a hard time. That it took a few days, because you said we had no concept of what was to come, what we're about to go through, and it was all just almost overnight. Our lives were completely different. I really liked what you said there about the leadership and support that came from your school and your school management, and I think that's been really key, and will be key as we go through this, is that really strong sense of leadership that helps us feel that everything is as in control as it can be. I think is it maybe a way to say it. Sharing the information or saying we don't have the information is helpful. I know from our perspective, we're getting a lot of engagement a couple of times a week, just in terms of updates on what we should be doing, or where the the business is going, and that is helping. But I think really key for me, getting back maybe more into the work than leaving it, and was the clarity of expectation around, I suppose, achievable. What is achievable? What is effective? What is good use of my day? How do we now deliver, and how that has now changed now that we live at home, and clarity of expectation is so important, and it gives that real sense of comfort when you know what is expected. I think the challenge comes whenever we still maybe perceive that we should still be delivering at the rate that we delivered, or turning out the work at the work rate that we were doing before. No matter what work environment we're in, it is different. It is that acceptance, but knowing from a leadership perspective that is okay, I think helps massively. From a staff perspective and an employee engagement perspective, knowing what the expectations of being back at work are.
Yeah, and I think that stands for leaders, but also just generally in dealing with your colleagues too. As you said, I think we'll all have better days than others, and there's days we'll have more more stuff going on around the house than whether that's with other people or whatever else other people's concerns are. Than a colleague might. So there might be days that you're very, very productive and levels are very high, and they may be very low then the next day for whatever valid reason you have. That might just be your own thoughts and feelings are just greater, your own energy levels aren't as high. And it's communicating that, and picking up each other whenever you need to do, to make that more and more positive experience, and kind of know that yes, there's good leadership there, but there's also good collective employee caring for each other. Because I think just on that other thing about how do you go about controlling the small things, like you can control how much you're looking at your emails, and that's always the case in work. Instead of trying to react to them all the time. That's what I was doing at the start. It's like, right, well, actually, there's going to be this these 2 hours or this hour, then I'm going to deal with emails, and other than that, I'm going to turn them off. Small thing for me too was taking my work email off my phone. I didn't need it. If I wasn't in my office, I was down in the kitchen. If I was in the kitchen in the living room with the kids, but I find myself then going, I've sent an email, I don't know if they replied, I'm going onto my phone quickly and going, well, why, so it's like, right, take it off. If I'm out of the office, which is just upstairs, I'm not working, and I'm going to enjoy time not working, and then when I'm working, I'll switch on, I'll be much more energized and ready to do it. But small things like that can make a real difference to kind of how you focus and how you're controlling your energy flow.
Yeah, and I think that structure is so important. Structure, and again, as I've been readjusting back to a couple of weeks now back at work, those boundaries, the structure and the boundaries, along with the expectation, are so useful to see. And I suppose for myself, they do change daily around what I can achieve in a day and what I can, and we're moving now on into a section around motivation and well-being, and they all just link so well, because without the structure, without your boundaries, but without expectation, I think you would just find yourself feeling like you're on a bit of a hamster wheel, that you were just kind of unable to get off. I've definitely had friends and colleagues who have said they do struggle with the boundary piece, when it gets to turning off the laptop at night, but because you're physically not leaving the same house in the same geographical area that you're in, it's quite hard to then switch off into personal time. So boundaries has been massive, along with the structure and expectations, a massive learning for me to be quite clear on for myself, to try to keep that motivation going and start feeling like I have that control, but that I'm motivated to be productive because I know what my boundaries are within a day.
Yeah, no, definitely agree with that. And just as was explained a bit there on that slide you put up, Louise, I suppose, and it's not that we kind of obviously we definitely didn't want to make today's session a kind of very heavy theory type of says. It's more kind of supposed to share our experiences and some of the models. But I thought just that this one was particularly useful because I think it's quite straightforward, but actually it's very useful. It's a lot of the time, even before COVID, you know, if I felt motivation was low or I was just frustrated or stressed, I kind of link back to these three areas that are very closely aligned to this was a theory called self-determination theory. And it says there's three key areas that if we feel these three areas are more satisfied in our life, then we tend to have higher motivation. It also links very clearly to higher well-being too. There's lots of studies and lots of different facets of life, whether that's work or outside of work, and lots of all different ability levels and remuneration levels too. A lot of these three tenets still stand as core basics that we can meet to improve motivation. And so it's just, I think people hopefully can read them there. It's confidence, which I suppose is feeling a level of achievement, being good in an area that you want to be good at. And really, this was what that translates to in terms of the minute is that idea of, you know, do you get to the end of the day and feel that you've done a good job in the areas that you wanted to do a good job in, and have you achieved what you set out to achieve? And if you're not, and you're always going to bed feeling like you're a bit behind, or you get to the end of the week and you haven't achieved what you want, then that need's not going to be met. You know, you're going to feel like you're not very good. So in terms of flipping that around, I think that really starts with clear goals in terms of what you're going to achieve in a week, in a day, and that goal setting for me is really important too now, I think. And a lot of the time, yes, goals start with a very big goal, something that's very exciting, you know, something in the future that we're going to achieve. I think at the minute, again, that's quite difficult because there's so much uncertainty. So I think at the minute, we're kind of reducing those goals into very small micro goals that you can set and making them, paring them back, and then maybe even pair them back a wee bit again, because that's probably what's more realistic. And then you can go to bed and on a day, or get to Friday or whatever the end of your week is, we'll have different work patterns, and go, you know what, I've actually achieved everything I was planning on achieving this week. And that maybe wasn't what I would have achieved on a normal week 2 months ago, but again, being a bit self-forgiving that's not where we are. So I think that's one area where, you know, very clear goals, and being honest with yourself about what you can achieve, and not trying to overreach, especially if you're not used to being someone who kind of overreaches or is very ambitious a lot of the time, because then you just constantly feel you're chasing your tail and maybe hitting those targets, and that has a negative impact. The other one there, the other two is autonomy, which is really about having a choice and having control. So we've kind of talked a good bit about control already. I think just on that, the add that one, things with control, we talked about maybe technology and setting aside time and being clear on boundaries. You can control all that. I think we can also control as well things like our thoughts and our feelings. I don't mean you can totally banish them. If feelings will come, there'll be feelings of helplessness that come, or feelings of frustration, and you can acknowledge them and then move on and choose not to wallow in them. Or if you have negative thoughts come in, which will come into your head at times, but not getting so good, it's being aware of those and having a strategy in place to stop them. So when you feel negative thoughts coming in, rather than maybe ruminating about them for an hour or letting them sit on your mind at night when you're stewing, very quickly replace them with thoughts of, well, what have you achieved? What have you done well? Maybe what are some of the positive comments you've had from colleagues? What are the good jobs you think you've done for some of your clients? And be a bit more, I suppose, self-forgiving, and be more willing to just when you pat yourself in the back. I think as people we generally don't think, particularly in Northern Ireland, we're very good at being a bit more self-deprecating. I think now is not the time to do that. It's okay to be a bit more proud of what we do and what we achieve. And it's okay to sit and think. And sometimes, well, here's what I've done well. They don't say too much. You'll have someone might, you know, knock you down a bit if you and start telling your other half how brilliant you are every day. But I think now and again, it's certainly helpful at the minute to kind of reflect on achievements as opposed to kind of what we haven't done, you know.
Yeah, definitely. And I even know for myself, even just making sure I'm getting my exercise in. Obviously, when I was furloughed, fitting exercise in every day was no challenge. It was something that kind of filled quite a large portion of my day. And now that I'm back to work, it's actually now working out that routine again to make sure I still get that, because that was helping my emotional and mental well-being as well as my physical. It was something that I got to really rely on without really realizing I was getting to rely on it for feeling good and for trying to kind of feel positive, and to have that structure. So finding my new structure again has been another learning curve for me over the last few weeks, working out what I still need to be doing that helps me get through this period, while also marrying that up with how I'm working and staying motivated in work, and keeping everything, all those plates spinning all at one time, and getting back to that again. I think the structure has really helped with that too.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think did you mention exercise there? And if you exercise with members of a household, it kind of links on to that last piece there of relatedness. And part of a key tenet to our motivation and our well-being is having positive relations. Kind of relations that involve a sort of reciprocal sense of caring. We like to talk about. People are genuinely interested in what you think, how you feel, and that's both your colleagues and then obviously people outside of work too. I think again at the start of this, it was all social distancing, and then that sort of quickly changed nuance to physical distancing. That doesn't mean you socially don't connect with people. And then I think there was not a danger, but we all kind of then quickly shifted to lots and lots of contact online, and lots of Zoom meetings. And I think in the first week, I'd had like 2 reunions with people I hadn't spoken to maybe 15 years. Now that was great, right? But I was like, well, I'm knackered now. I'm chatting to all these people I haven't chatted to in ages, which is great. And I think, and then in work too, there was a lot more meetings. And I suppose the learning from that for that movie, we were chatting about this yesterday, was that I think a lot of online meetings can be very draining. So again, it's important to keep relations, keep in touch with people in work. Don't be isolated. Reach out for support, good and bad. Let them know when you're having good days or down days, and lean on people. But I think also don't set up 10, 12 Zoom meetings in a day of half an hour each, or whatever it is, because we were chatting to obviously other colleague Emer about kind of reading body language and stuff. That kind of, it's more difficult online. So I think a lot of the online meetings are obviously extremely useful. They're necessary, but again, limit them. Be aware of how they can drain your energy, because I think there's a lot more attention needed and concentration needed than would be the case for some of the more informal meetings you might have had in the workplace, around someone chatting through your desk or having a chat over a coffee. I think concentration and energy is kind of heightened on all these Zoom meetings, and there are other platforms available for meetings, obviously. But yeah, so it's balancing that relatedness, which is really important, with again a bit of self-care and not overcommitting, and feel like you're constantly online.
Yeah, definitely. And I do think, I suppose, just kind of conscious of our time, that this 30 minutes has gone in a blink. I think I could probably sit and talk to you about this for hours, Dave, but sadly we are getting near to the end of the session. And I just think the big question that I think everyone who is listening is, what does your thriving look like? What does it look like now? Given what we've said, given, having to, to reset our mindset, having to really readjust and kind of recalibrate what that looks like for us, taking in the hints and tips that Dave has provided. And just in the last few minutes, just keen to hear if anyone has any questions, anyone who is listening in, who has any questions for Dave or myself just at the moment on anything that we could address for you, if you just want to put it in the chat.
Or even examples of maybe changes you've made that have worked well for you.
Yeah.
If you want to. If you want to share them, it can be useful for other people as well.
Yeah, definitely. But Dave, that has been very fast 30 minutes for us chatting. It has been really enjoyable. I did, as I said, really, I've even noted down, even for myself, the leadership, support and clarity of expectations. Control our controllable. What can we control? Definitely, I barely look at the news now. As much as I can avoid it, I do, unless I know there's something big coming, just to try to minimize the negative impact, so that everything I'm doing to try to build up the positivity and the positive outlook and that motivation, that I can kind of sustain that as much as possible without letting external factors that I've no control over kind of take that away. Have you any lasting comments that you want to make before we finish up on our seminar?
I suppose on top of all that, yeah, I suppose just another, and again maybe obvious thing for me was whenever I say so maybe some of the less positive thoughts do come, and I agree, I've kind of switched off the news more than I would have normally done. I think I'll hear what I need to hear, but I think the moments they will feel a bit out of control or a bit of loss, don't be afraid to open up and talk to someone about that. I've had maybe 1 or 2 moments where you feel, God, this is all gone a bit bit very wrong and you're worried about what's going to happen, and just a conversation with someone who's close to you can make those feelings sort of disappear quite quickly, or at least put them at ease, and you can realize you're doing a good job, whether it's a work at home, and then you can get on and feel like you're thriving again more and put more energy back into what you need to achieve, both whether it's in work or out of work, and then feel much better about it.
Yeah, great. A really important message there too. Definitely reach out as and when needed to whoever you have that you can speak to. So that is us at the end of our time, guys. Hopefully you have enjoyed it. If you have any questions that you didn't want to put in the chat, please do direct them through to us. If you just use Cora's email that you used to book on the session, she will make sure that they get through to us and we will address them. Obviously today was the first information seminar of a series of 2-week sessions that we are running. Our class yesterday, but there's another one next week, so if you have any children at home who might be interested in participating, sign up. And we have 2 full weeks of seminars, so take a look at anything that we have on the go over the next 2 weeks and sign up, and hopefully you enjoy those too. But I will leave you now thanking Dave very much for his time coming along and sharing your insights today. And I will hopefully speak to you soon, Dave, and to everyone who was on the call. Thank you very much for your time and for coming along and listening. And I hope to speak to you all sometime soon too.
Right, thank you.
All right, thanks very much. Thanks, Dave. Bye.
Bye.